Hi, welcome to a special edition of Our Town for Carson Now and ACC TV. I'm Kirk Caraway. This morning we're talking to Steve Neighbors, who is president of the Carson Nugget, trustee of the Hop and May Adams Foundation, and also a main figure behind the City Center project, which is, of course, been a big issue for a number of years, 3 years going now.
3 years, yes.
So it has taken a long time. It's evolved a lot since then. You're kind of a private sector guy, and so having a project go this long, to even get it off the ground, probably a little bit
It
frustrating.
has been. It's been a learning curve for me.
But now we're kind of in that, I don't want to say final stage, but I mean we're now. The question's on the ballot for November. The voters, Carson City, will vote whether they want to have the project and fund it with a 1/4 cent sales tax. And what are you doing to kind of educate and to help get that passed?
Well, it's a challenge. We have a short period of time to communicate to a number of people. We spent 3 years developing, vetting, and communicating the project to the Board of Supervisors. That was 5 people. It was relatively easy to communicate with them. There was quite a bit of one-on-one as well as meetings with the advisory committee they set up, with the board itself in board meetings, with a number of charrettes and citizen meetings. We have morphed the project. In my mind, the project is really, it's a partnership of 3 different parties. The Maybe Adams Trust and the Hop and May Adams Foundation's focus is economic opportunities for the citizens, especially the youth and senior citizens. The Library Foundation, of course, focuses on the library, and the Board of Supervisors were representing the community, and now it's going to be the community themselves, and I think that's great.
So, well, it's been an interesting process. We've seen different iterations of the project, and I know that you've done some polling recently. I remember there was a story about that. And what have you found out that people are seeing about the project that stuck out to you about that? You learned from that polling.
I think the number one thing I learned was that people's perspective is it's about a library. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great. I think a library is great. But I think May's focus, if I may just refer to the Maybe Adams Trust and Hop and May Adams Foundation as May, mm-hmm. That sums up those entities. May's focus is really on economic opportunities. We want to help the downtown. We think the downtown long-term has some stress. It is facing and will be facing. We believe that we have an economy that needs to have some stimulation and some help. We think there's high unemployment. We have listened to a number of different experts on what Carson City, what would help Carson City, so how May could best be, optimize her resources for the community. And it appears to be economic, so that's why we're focused on it. And the poll showed somehow we haven't been getting that message out, and that's my fault. I just really haven't been out communicating. The library's been doing a great job communicating about the library, but May hasn't done a good job about communicating what her objectives are.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like I said, it's taken a long time, and it's been through a few different changes through there. So it's been a moving target to try to be able to get the word out too about.
Yeah, originally I thought I could bring in a private developer. We had quite a bit of land. We thought, well, we'll do this as a private development and try to set some aside for the community. So it just isn't. I didn't want a giant casino. I didn't want a bunch of office spaces without some community asset there. And so I tried to bring in a private developer to help fund and put this package together. My focus, of course, was what we can do for the community. So we were focused on building an economic toolbox, having the library manage it, as well as being a 21st century library, put in a community plaza. We knew we were taking out parking that we've allowed all our neighbors to use, and we knew that needed to be, we're putting more stress on that. We knew we needed a garage. So we were focused on the public side, and we were letting the developer focus on the private. And that ended up not working well. The private developer had objectives that were contrary to Mays in the cities. And not that they were bad, it's just they had a different perspective. And so we really eliminated the private side and just focused on the public development. And it's rare that someone comes in and helps the public develop the public side, but that's what we're focused on. So that's perhaps the major change to the project.
Now, explain a little bit, the May B. Adams Trust and the Hop and May Adams Foundation, the differences between those, because when we're doing these supervisor meetings and things like that, sometimes they get used interchangeably, sometimes they are confusing. Maybe we can help clear that up a little bit.
I understand. So the May B. Adams Trust is a trust. I'm the sole trustee of it. It owns the Nugget. It answers to the Hop and May Adams Foundation, who is set up for the benefit of the community of Carson City. And so everything I do has to answer to the ultimate call of the Hop and May Adams Foundation. The Hop and May Adams Foundation is a nonprofit, it's a foundation. The May B. Adams Trust owns the Nugget. The foundation really is not interested in owning a casino. So the trust perspective has been, how do we fulfill the obligations of the foundation, our ultimate boss, and at the same time be responsible to the Nugget, its employees, its customers, its stakeholders. And so May B. Adams and myself as the trustee owns the gaming license that allows the casino to operate. As we went through a process of getting, we've been spending the last 3 years, since January 2009, getting a management team in place that we could then transfer ownership to.
Okay. So to clear that up, so the trust, of course, was the first entity, right? And the foundation came second after that? Right?
Well,
the foundation was created after
they both were set up prior to May's death.
Okay.
The Nugget was owned by Hop and Howard Adams since the 50s, so it's been in the community 60 years, owned by the Adams anyway. It was here before that. Prior to May's passing, she engaged some attorneys. She set up the trust and the foundation. She, in the trust, I was responsible. I acted as her PR, and I distributed to her heirs. The remaining residual assets will then transfer to the foundation.
Okay.
And one of those assets, so I've dealt with all of those. One of those assets is the Nugget, and we've taken a long-term approach rather than just simply sell the Nugget and all its land to another casino owner. We wanted to figure out how to help the existing employees in the community with that asset.
And now the trust and the foundation, or the foundation, I guess, stipulated as part of May's wishes to benefit the people of Carson City, or how is that?
Yes, the foundation's legal directive is to be a blessing to the community of Carson City. We, as the trustees, the 3 trustees of the foundation, have done our research and determined we can best be a blessing if we take a different focus than other foundations. So there's, like, for example, there's a library foundation. Its focus is the library. Our focus is the economic opportunities for the youth and senior citizens of Carson City.
All right. Because I mean,
all citizens. All citizens.
I mean, I think one of the misconceptions out there, and some of the critics will talk about that that the city center project was about money. It's about building up the value of the Nugget, or about making money for you, or whatever. Now, so if the money from the trust, if somebody came in and said, "I'm going to pay $20 million for the casino right now," that $20 million would go to the foundation for Carson City's benefit,
That's
right?
correct.
All right. So it's not.
We, the trustees, don't make anything on it.
Okay.
The owner, the ultimate residuary owner of any proceeds from the Nugget sale will go to the foundation, so back to the community.
Right. So I think that was one of the unclear parts about that. Now I understand the documents that for the trust and the foundation, especially maybe the trust, are not public documents, right? And so you can't. Or
Well, these are private trusts.
Right, yeah.
We will file our public annual filings on our financials. We get a lot of citizens and people that are looking for handouts or want help putting milk on the table, and that's just not. There's all kinds of other charities that focus on that. Our focus is career opportunities for the youth, job opportunities for senior citizens, and just employment opportunities for all citizens in Carson City. That's really our focus.
All right. And now, as you've gone through the process with the city for this project, they've been made aware of all the stipulations that this money is supposed to go back to Carson City and that, right?
Yes, we've disclosed all of, everything. The city attorney has a file on us.
Okay.
He has done, the Board of Supervisors have had him go in and do substantial vetting of us. The Nevada Gaming Board has done substantial vetting.
As they do.
Yeah, as they do. I was surprised at what I went through. I held a top secret clearance because I did work on military bases, and I was surprised at how thorough it really was. And maybe, as I've talked to other people, maybe mine was a little more intensive just based on the circumstances and the situation. You normally don't have a trust owning a casino and a trustee getting the gaming license that keep it going. And so there was, I think, from what I'm picking up, there's quite a bit of focus on that, above normal.
And then you said that the foundation has no interest in owning the casino at the end of this process, and so it is going to be transferring that ownership over to the management team. Is that, do I understand that right?
We've actually had a number of offers on the Nugget. We internally, in visiting with the Hop and May Adams Trust as well, have determined that the best thing we can do with the Nugget is help it become employee-owned and or management-owned. We have done a lot of work in getting the management, finding the management, getting it placed, getting it trained. We feel like they've just done a crackerjack job. They're running profitably. They're executing on their budget to the gnat's eyebrow. They've adjusted. We've all foresaw a drop given the bypass when it went through. That was projected well. That was managed well. They've adopted community first. And that's the Hop and May Adams mission, is the community. They've embraced that and have performed in that very well. There's a whole lot that the Nugget has done that people know about and don't know about. And so I'm real pleased with how that's gone. And we're in the process now, the final stages of making that transition.
Okay. How long is that going to, you think, will that be? Or
there's a number of gaming licenses that have to happen. We were trying to figure out how to make it employee-owned. Nevada law isn't really set up to do that without going public. So we have been working on how we can have not only the management but the employees be blessed in this, as well as money back to the community. So we're trying to weigh all these balls and put together a very good balanced approach of how we bless the employees and the management and the community with the sale of the Nugget.
Well, that's a big job.
It's been, and it's all with lots of regulations.
Yes,
Yes.
of course. Well, how about a little bit about you? Because I'm not sure people know a little bit about you mostly from this project, but I understand you grew up in this general area, a region that you lived here as a young man.
I think there's been a lot of distortion on that, so thanks for letting me clarify that. I came from a dysfunctional, broken home. I was raised in a little bit in Klamath Falls and then brought over and lived in Reno and Sparks. There was a period of time when my father and mother were having some problems, and my father was in prison. My mother was having some issues as well. And so we spent a little bit of time. I spent just a little bit of time, and I can't even tell you how much time. I was very young. I spent a little bit of time in the children's home here in Carson City. I just remember it being. Lots of big kids. It was scary to me. I spent quite a bit of time in Reno and Sparks. I went to elementary school in Sparks. I was a kind of a street kid. I swept parking lots from 9 years old up. I made kind of a living. One of my first accounts was the Nugget in Sparks. So I guess I've been in the casino business.
In the Nugget business,
since
I guess.
9 years old,
So.
yes. And so I swept parking lots. I did that in the evenings and early mornings prior to school. I then would walk to, I went to the schools. I went to Applegate, I want to say, and Lincoln Park Elementary. Those are the two schools I remember going to. And at 12, my dad got out. We went to Boise, and I've been in Boise all my life since then. My dad then moved on to Oregon, and I stayed in Boise.
But being a young entrepreneur, doing that led you to other things in life too, of having your own companies.
Yeah, I'm a sweeper boy at heart, so that's who I am. I swept parking lots in Reno, so from 12 up I had my little power sweeper, and I swept parking lots, and I went through junior high and high school there, and my family moved to Oregon, and I stayed there. I then grew that business into parking lot maintenance and paving, and pretty soon we got on to highway work and bridge repairs, and eventually I ended up running a business that worked in 35 states doing heavy highway work. I was a public works contractor, did a lot of airport work. I carried a heavy highway license, licensed in Nevada as well. I did a lot of sub work for contractors. Every other year I'd start another business. After a period of time, 30 years in the heavy highway construction world was a lot of travel. I miss seeing my kids a lot. I have a close family. We started having grandkids, so I split up the business. And every other year I'd start a business. I had 15 other businesses in Boise, and they were always calling me back to help them. So I became a turnaround practitioner, a business consultant, really with the own business I've started. And I've maintained really good relationships with those accounts. That's what put me in the consulting turnaround business. And my first outside business that I did a turnaround with was, I think, in about 2000. And since then I've done about 54 turnarounds. And the Nugget, how I got engaged with the Nugget was really as a turnaround practitioner. And I didn't really know anything about the gaming industry. I at first turned it down, but it was Andy McKenzie that was doing some research on different turnaround practitioners, and he's the one that came back to me. And I thought it'd be really interesting to go back to see Carson, Sparks, Reno.
The Nugget.
Yeah, and the Nugget. I mean, and I thought, how ironic, my livelihood started on the Nugget parking lot in the Sparks.
Right. So now, like the highway company, what was the name of the highway company? Is that the paving company, or is it?
It was called Eternal Line, and there was Eternal Line of Idaho that was based in Idaho that did Idaho work, and then there's Eternal Line Corporation that did work in outside states.
Okay.
And we had, our biggest office was over in the D.C. area, so I spent a lot of time in, I'll be honest, I spent a lot of time in a lot of different states. I ended up going into the projects where we had trouble on. And believe it or not, we often had jobs that didn't go the way we bid them or we thought they should go.
But doing that kind of highway work all around the country, that couldn't take you out of the house.
Yes.
So, so now back to the City Center project and all the things we've been through with that. What's the thing that you want to most tell, undecided voter out there? I don't know much about the City Center project. I've heard the name, or I've heard the Nugget project name, or whatever. What is it, the message you have to get out to those folks?
I think the project has had a lot of work on it by a lot of different people. I think I have spent a lot of time myself on it. The foundation, the trust has spent a lot of money vetting and developing it, traveling around the country trying to figure out the best thing we could do. There are 3 different parties involved with different perspectives that have all come together and said, we think this is the right thing to do. So May's perspective has been, how do we help a struggling downtown? How do we create an economic diversification, an enhancement of Carson City with good quality businesses? How do we help existing businesses create more jobs, better pay? How do we create an attraction to other businesses? Carson's, I think it's a jewel that just is not known out there in the world. I come from Idaho, so Idaho also was kind of one of the butt of the nation's jokes, and I think it's awesome too. So we're focused on how do we create jobs here, and then how do we create the skilled workforce here? So our perspective in the downtown, the City Center project, has been, how do we create the chicken and the egg? How do we create jobs and the skilled workforce for those jobs? And how do we make this attractive for businesses that are here? How can we help them grow jobs and new ones that that fit in well with the community? How do we attract them without just going and stealing other businesses, or trying to figure out how we give more tax breaks than somebody else. That's a broken system, so we focused on a different way to do it. And that's been May's input into the City Center project. We have an asset that we're willing to not figure out how to harvest the most dollar out of, but allow it to be used by the community if they want to do it. We have 2 partners that we're not saying they have to step up to it. We've just said, here's what we think, and here's our participation in. So the other 2 partners are the library and the city. I think there's no better trusted institution than the library to manage the tools and manage the plaza and be the centerpiece of this project. That's my own personal perception. But how that gets funded is really then in large part up to the Library Foundation and up to the city. The city they did their vetting. For example, the mayor went to the mayor's, I don't know what it's called, but it's where all the mayors get together, and he's done his own vetting. A number of the Board of Supervisors have done their own vetting. They've pressed me a lot over the last few years to prove this, prove that. And so there's kind of been a morphing of 3 different views of what needs to happen, and that's what's all come together that we now call the City Center project. At the same time, we're doing it out in the public. I've never done a project out in the public before. I've never, so I haven't, I guess from my perspective, I haven't managed that well. But we've had a lot of input. The Board of Supervisors set up a advisory committee. A lot of really good input, both positive and critical, that we said, that has merit, and we've kind of tried to bring that into it. There's more detail eventually that once the the parties are all committed, that we'll figure this out with lawyers and with experts and whatever. But we've gone as far as we can without the parties being totally committed. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that it's being put out for the community to have a vote on it. I don't think they understand it, at least from our perspective. I want to figure out how to communicate that. But ultimately, May's here for the long run, and we want to do what the community wants to do, and we're not here to force anything on anybody. So we're a party to the Library Foundation and to the city saying what's right overall for the community. Mm-hmm. And that's our role.
Now, the process, even though the process has been long and arduous,
and expensive.
The product, it seems to have, of what you see as a project right now, seems to have really gotten better. I mean, I remember the very first of it, and the design, the architect you brought in for this second half of this effort, came out with a building design that was a very beautiful design that I think really captured people's imaginations a little more.
Well, we've actually had quite a bit of input. So we started with a firm that held a charrette out of Denver, who I think did a good job on the charrette. We have had a number of people give input. We then were working with a developer, private developer, and so we were getting, and I don't mean this negative, but we're getting green boxes, and
Mm-hmm.
and they were focused, their main focus was on all the private stuff, so they were just throwing us green boxes for the public side. And the library, the three of us, the library, the city, and May were focused on the public side, and so we didn't really care much about the private side as long as it fit within the standards of the community. So we just didn't feel like we were being heard. And so I put the money up to engage an architect in Reno, and I think he did a great job of understanding the community and putting together something that I think will be an icon for this community for 100 years.
Mm-hmm. Now, when this goes up for a vote, obviously, here in November, it's going to be up or down. What happens, if it does, citizens don't vote for it? Is this the end of this? Is it time to move on to something else? Is it, can it morph into something else, to another project, or what do you feel about that?
I think the City Center project is a powerful way to address all the things that May is concerned about the downtown, about economic opportunities, about educational enhancements and training, about developing the culture here. So I think I can't imagine a more powerful way to have an impact. And to leverage that with another private foundation, the library, and put that trusted institution in control of this, and to leverage what the city wants to do. I can't imagine a more powerful impact to the community. However, if the community says no, I'm not here to force anything on the community. And we have been very open about that to the city, to the Board of Supervisors, to the library. We've made it and written statements to them. Nobody has to go forward with this. We're not asking anybody to pay us back. We've spent $1.5 million so far in helping vet this, help develop this. If it's not right, just drop it, and we'll go on. May's here for the long run. So we want to have a long-term relationship doing what, helps bring opportunities, jobs, careers for the citizens of Carson City. That's our goal.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on and talking to us about this. I think it's been very informative, and hopefully everybody will inform themselves about this project and cast their ballots in November.
All right, and thanks for helping me to start communicating it, and I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.